So it is 6:02 p.m. We have a quorum, and this meeting has been duly posted. Before I begin, I want to read a quick statement. On March 16th, Governor Abbott granted a request by Attorney General Ken Paxton to temporarily suspend a limited number of open meetings laws to the extent necessary to allow telephonic or video conference meetings in response to the coronavirus, COVID-19. In accordance with those suspended rules, we certify the following. One, the notice of the meeting has been posted online for at least 72 hours, 1 hour for an emergency meeting or emergency supplement item. Although members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance at this meeting by video conference. 3, we're meeting by using Zoom meeting software application, which allows two-way communication for members of the public. 4, as we would at any in-person meeting, members of the public who have followed the instructions on the meeting notice for registering to speak during the public comment portion will be unmuted for 3 minutes to speak. If you'd like to provide comment at a future meeting conducted by video conference or telephone call, please follow instructions on the meeting notice. All other meeting procedures will adhere to the board adopted procedures to the extent practicable. An audio recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public. We apologize in advance for any unforeseeable difficulties and ask for your patience as we navigate unprecedented conditions. If you have any questions about these suspended laws, please call the Office of the Attorney General at 888-672-6787 or by email at toma@oag.texas.gov. So good evening and welcome to the monthly board meeting of the Dallas Independent School District Board of Trustees. In lieu of having a meeting virtually, we are going to skip the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the Texas flag. The following trustees will be participating in the board briefing via video conference. We have District 1, Edwin Flores. District 2, that's Trustee Marshall. District 3, Dan Mitchke. District 4, Carla Garcia. District 5, Maxie Johnson. District 6, Joyce Foreman. District 7, Ben Mackey. District 8, Miguel Solis. Our Superintendent of Schools, Michael Hinojosa, joins us, and I'm Justin Henry, Board President. Trustees, today there are no recognitions. We are going to begin with the superintendent's report. Superintendent Hinojosa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I'll be brief with my comments. I first want to identify that thank you to the board for the purchase of the 10,000 mobile hotspots. They have arrived. I want to thank AT&T and others for executing their request in an expedited manner. These are being distributed to our secondary students almost immediately, and we should also begin distributing them to students in grades 3 through 5, along with the additional Chromebooks. So I want to thank everyone for stepping up and making that possible for our students and families. Second of all, the 2020 Superintendent Scholarship recipients have been identified from each high school. They've been selected on the basis of their academic success, their character, and the promise for future academic success. Each will receive a $2,500 scholarship. Trustees have their names, and some of them will be recognized this evening. We're also planning a virtual reception for them sometime in the immediate future. And very importantly, we have now scheduled our 2020 bond and budget virtual town hall meetings. They are planned for May 7th, May 13th, and May 19th. Please be on the lookout for future details. These dates will be prominently advertised in multiple fashions, and we hope that there is a lot of participation. And that concludes my report for this evening, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Superintendent. We're going to move on to what I think committee report through trustees. We're going to move on to trustee reports for districts 1 through 9. With District 1 and go all the way through District 9. So, Trustee Flores.
All right. Oh, there we go. I successfully unmuted my my computer. So first of all, thank you, President Henry. I'd like to highlight the work of Abby Ruffer, a high school math and ESL teacher at Thomas Jefferson High School. Over the last couple of weeks, Ms. Rufer has shared with us her experience of adapting her home routine and teaching style to at-home learning through a blog series, which is shared on the district's social channels. It gives us a firsthand look at how teachers are conquering this new normal. Kudos to all our teachers who are continuing their commitment to excellence in this new era. Also, thank you to the business community for their continued support of our students and schools. In particular, I'd like to thank Fossil for providing watches to all TJ seniors. Everyone is aware how remarkable this year has been for the TJ community. It's inspirational to see partners doing what they can to show their commitment to students. Thanks to Fossil and so many other companies for your generosity. And finally, I'd like to recognize the Superintendent Scholarship recipients from District 1, Marisol Ortega and Frank William from Thomas Jefferson High School, and Nobanji Ofowankan and Joshua Davis from W.T. White High School. Congratulations. And that concludes my report. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Trustee Flores. Trustee Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll give the District 2 report. I want to start out by saying thank you to the Woodrow Wilson High School engineering students who are busy manufacturing medical face shields to protect our doctors and nurses in the fight against COVID-19. They're using 3D printers and are raising money for supplies and additional printers. So far, as of April 16th, they had received donations totaling almost $10,000. And their most recent goal is to create 300 additional masks for Baylor Hospital. So great work, students. Please keep it up. Also on April 3rd, North Dallas High School's Academy of Information Technology and Woodrow Wilson's High School's Academies of Finance and the Academy of Hospitality and Tourism were among 23 Dallas ISD academies to earn a prestigious NAF achievement designation. So congrats to all of those folks. District 2 is excited that 2 of the 5 pilot schools chosen for full-day 3-year-old pre-K are in District 2, Preston Hollow Elementary and Geneva Heights. We all recognize the benefits of early learning, and we're glad to make this available to our students. I also want to take a moment to encourage District 2 freshmen, sophomores, and juniors to register for a free online ACT and SAT prep class hosted by the district through May 21st. I'd like to recognize the Superintendent Scholarship recipients from District 2, Keila Nino Jimenez, Eleanor Solomon from Hillcrest, Colin Gustafson and Harper Powell from Woodrow, and Freddie Garcia and Tina Nguyen from North Dallas. Congrats to the 3 Woodrow Wilson varsity boys soccer players that were named to the All-Academic, All-State. Congrats to Wesley Adams, Rowan Blumenstock, and Jack Dahlman. And lastly, I'm excited for William Lipscomb Elementary that received another grant to continue their partnership with the National Wildlife Federation Monarch Heroes Butterfly Program. There's clouds of monarch butterflies migrating south for the winter, and many of them pass right through Dallas, where this special program allows our school and our communities to provide nectar-rich flowers and milkweed to nourish them. It attracts a lot of butterflies, and it's great for the kids. So great to hear that this will keep going, and that concludes the District 2 report.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall. Trustee Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I may be on your screen in 2 places because I had to log in on my phone. I had an unstable connection. So can you hear me? Okay, thank you. I'd like to congratulate the sophomores and seniors from Bryan Adams High School who recently presented their defenses during the school's virtual Best of the Best Defense Night. Students showed a portfolio of their accomplishments and discuss their learning with a panel of teachers, staff, and community members. Normally they do this in person, but because of the circumstances, these students adapted and did wonderfully. We're proud of these outstanding Cougars. I'd also like to take a moment to congratulate the winners of this year's Superintendent Scholarship from Bryan Adams High School and Emma J. Conrad High School. This has been a tough year for seniors, and we're proud of their perseverance and accomplishments under these challenging circumstances. Congratulations, Christopher Walters and Leslie Samora from Bryan Adams, and Michael Lansbaum and Treasure Okillo from Conrad High School. I'd also like to just generally thank all of our teachers and staff principals who are doing so much to keep school going in this remote learning environment. I can only imagine how difficult it must be for a teacher with his or her own kids trying to educate them at the same time providing online learning to our children. So I really know that all of us are very appreciative of these extraordinary efforts. And then finally, I'd like to just congratulate and thank the staff at Truett for conducting a parade with over 60 staff members by car to welcome and encourage our students. That concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Mishke. District 4, Trustee Garcia.
Hi, good afternoon. I'd like to share for District 4 that even though schools are closed, several District 4 principals are continuing their engagement with parents. Special thank you to the Blanton Elementary School, Pleasant Grove, Stag and Pleasant Grove, the Young Women's STEAM Academy in Balch Springs for their continued efforts, whether it's online coffee with the principal or posting their video announcements over the morning. They've done a great job in being creative and engaging students and families during this outbreak. And I'd also like to recognize the Superintendent Scholarship recipients for our district. That would be Ms. Gonzalez and Tovar from Spruce High School, Ms. Mendez and Mr. Ramos from Seagoville High School, and Ms. Jeter and Sargent from Samuel High School. So congratulations to those students and their efforts. That concludes District 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. District 5, Trustee Maxie Johnson.
Thank you, President Henry. Way to go to DeMore Johnson, a senior at District 5's Townview School of Business in Magnet, who is featured in a YouTube video where he shares how at-home learning has helped him to grow and become more self-sufficient, just what he needs as he prepares to move to college. That's the spirit, DeMore. I'd like to recognize the Superintendent Scholarship recipients from District 5. There are quite a few, so I want to run through them pretty quickly. Omar Suarez and Jesus Montero from Barack Obama, Kenija Austin and Maria Martinez from Roosevelt, Leslie Compion and Julian Myers from Law Magnet, Tajir Foyer and Adelia Olivia from Pinkston, Melissa Munoz and Sandra Ponciano from Lassiter, Emiliano Rosales and Elijah Sala from New Tech, Anicia Coleman from School of Education, Kiara Williams and Howard Anderson from SOC, Judith Salazar and Elizabeth Blewett from TAG, Alejandra Pinedo and Angel Martinez from School of Business, Peter Dadson and Rebecca Trevino from Health Professions, Janelle Baker and Valentina from STEM, Michaela Jefferson and Rodriguez Wilmer from Wilmer Hutchins. Congratulations from these scholars for their hard work and achievement. Also want to thank all our community that have been community organizers that have been helping and assisting with feeding our community, our children. I want to give a special shout out to the South Oak Cliff alumni, to our community liaison, Brother Derek Bacti, for all his work. Also to Tony Johnson, Roosevelt alumni, to George Castro, and the Pinkston alumni. I also want to thank the New Morning Star church staff. We're also partnering up with Dallas ISD, and to Pastor Jonathan Morrison, the Cedar Crest Church of Christ, who also has partnered up with Dallas ISD to help get our food out to our children. And a big shout out to Sherry Christian and her staff, who has done a remarkable job and have been extremely flexible, making sure that all the sites are taken care of and that kids are being fed, and just the administration as a whole doing everything we can do. They're doing a wonderful job in this pandemic. Everybody's putting together. There's a strong synergy, and I want to just thank everyone for their hard work.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. Trustee Foreman. Trustee Foreman, you're on mute.
Can you hear me? No? You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, great. I'm sorry for that little malfunction. I'd like to start out with, once again, congratulating Destiny Miles from Kimball Rassler, who we were going to bring in and actually give her a plaque. But of course, we weren't able to do that based on this pandemic. Secondly, once again, I'd like to give a huge shout out to the cafeteria workers at T.W. Brown Middle School, where, as you all know, they've just received so much attention based on the work that they've done, and we are so proud of them for all of that work. Then I'd like to recognize the Superintendent Scholarship recipients from District 6. They are Samaje Motkins and Sajay Marino from Carter High School, Nathaniel Chambers and Emmanuel Ramirez Rios from Kimball High School, and Jediah Fajashan and LaDon Treyanda Jackson from Kathleen Joy Gillum. That was a mouthful. Also, congratulations to the Dallas Racial Equity Office and everyone who has won State Board of Education approval for the district's African American Studies course. Great work, everyone. And I'd lastly just like to thank our teachers, our parents, and our students for being such troopers in these trying times of a pandemic. I know it's been difficult. It's been difficult for me. I'm sure it's been difficult for you, but know that we're all working to try to make sure that things are streamlined at some given time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Foreman. Trustee Mackey, District 7.
Thank you, President Henry. I want to echo those words and just, first of all, thank all of the teachers, community members, students, everyone who's stepped up in this time. It's just been phenomenal. I also want to give a special shout out to Miss Mary Martinez, the librarian at Winnetka Elementary School, who came up with the amazing idea to start a virtual book club to stay connected to her students. Awesome job. Congratulations to the Sunset High School Academy of Health Sciences for becoming a NAF Distinguished Academy this year. This is not an easy task, and it truly shows all the hard work that the students and teachers have put into making that happen. And lastly, I'd like to join my other colleagues in recognizing the recipients of the Superintendent's Scholarship from District 7. They are Uniel Masters and Nevda Saravia from Molina High School, A2 and Sabra Briseño Mendez from Sunset High School, Jacqueline Diaz and Itzel Gamino from Adamson High School, and Sabina Aquave and Esmeralda Lopez from Trinity Garza Early College High School. Well done, and a huge congratulations to all the students for this accomplishment. Thank you, President Henry.
Thank you, Trustee Mackey. District 8, Trustee Solis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Kudos to Solar Prep for Girls for continuing their weekly sisterhood circle in the midst of at-home learning. The students there are now participating in this weekly school ritual through YouTube videos. Congrats to the Academy of Finance at IDEA for being named its first year as one of 135 academies in the NAF network to reach distinguished level, which is the highest level of achievement that can be obtained. I also want to recognize the Superintendent Scholarship recipients from District 8, who are Natalia Martinez Sanchez and Mildred Oliva Barrios from IDEA High School. Thank you to Big Thought, YMCA, and all DISD staff for coordinating the essential worker child care sites at District 8's Cesar Chavez and Onesimo Hernandez. These schools are providing support for our frontline responders who are helping combat COVID-19. Additionally, I want to thank New Vodka, who has flipped their liquor distillery into sanitizer production. And a lot of that sanitizer production is helping frontline responders, including our own people here in Dallas ISD, who have now become a regional site for sanitizer tankers. And then finally, I want to thank you to the many students across District 8 who have taken their at-home learning and sent it to me so that I could display it during school board. Really encouraging to see them, getting involved this way. And I hope that showing their artwork can show you that our students absolutely are persevering in this time of difficulty. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Solis. I'll begin the accolades for District 9. First, I want to give kudos, similar to my colleagues, to the students from District 9 high schools that are named recipients of the Superintendent Scholarship. They are Ellen Fritz and Mary Morgan Smith from Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts, Jaila Acevedo and Maria Lopez from Amaran Hill Young Women's Leadership School, Trustee Garcia's alma mater, Kira Braziel and Danielle Hampton from the Great James Madison High School, Tim Fields and Jayla Ward of Lincoln High School, and Michaela Black, Vivian Buendia, and Cameron Shelby of Skyline High School. I also want to recognize a trio of students from District 9 that have been awarded recognition and scholarships for their talent and hard work. Their Booker T. Washington students, Jean Angelo McCall, has been named one of 6 winners of the American Composers Forum for Music Composition for Strings. The Primrose Hispanic Mentoring Program has awarded scholarships to Irma Rangel Sr., Leslie Loomis, and Junior Elizabeth Rivera. And last, I echo the sentiments of many of my colleagues. Just want to send a huge thank you and just act of gratitude for all of our parents, educators, staff, the many volunteers, both with organizations and as individuals that are coming together to help us continue to the best we can to feed students and to deliver at-home learning during this very unique time. So again, want to echo a huge thanks and just an expression of gratitude to all those folks. And that concludes the District 9 report. Our agenda now calls for the public forum segment of our meeting. Dean, I hear a slight echo. It might just be me. Our agenda now calls for the public forum segment of our meeting. Mr. Harris will call each speaker on the number provided by the speaker to the Office of Board Services and will inform each speaker they have 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Harris, will you please call the speakers? Trustees, if you could remain on mute. I don't know where the echo is coming from, but if you're not speaking, if you can remain on mute, please. Thank you.
Yes. Our first speaker is Ola Allen.
Hello.
Ms. Allen?
Yeah, it is.
Hi, it's your 3 minutes. Time to speak to the board.
All righty. Do I need to turn? I guess I need to turn this down.
Go ahead.
Good evening. I am Ola Allen at 4111 Summit Ridge Drive. President Henry, board members, and superintendents of schools. I'm asking you not to look at the presenter, but listen to what is being presented. I have 2 great concerns this evening. Good evening. Good evening. I'm Ola Allen, 4111 Summit Ridge, Dallas, Texas. President Henry, board members, and superintendents of schools. I'm asking you not to look at the presenter this evening, but listen to what's being presented. I have 2 great concerns this evening. Number 1, President Henry, you have promised us many things that you have not been able to produce. You keep trying to put a spin on the conversation by saying that J.J. Rowe is not closing. But what you don't say that you will be effectively moving the elementary school and changing it to a daycare, which DISD is not in daycare business. Is that one of the reasons that you're working so diligently for a contract for Cherie Nixon of the T.R. Hoover program, who serves on the attendance boundary, and to change the school's boundary so that it would be a child care facility? It doesn't seem to matter to you, Stefan Elzada or Superintendent Hannah Holson, that we will be putting many black women that have daycare providers out of business. We are a community that's about cohesiveness and making sure that our children have a safe environment. Number 2, Skyline High School was broken into a few weeks ago, and an email was sent out at 2 a.m. alerting leadership of the break-in. But the email wasn't read until 10 a.m. Why would you send an email versus a phone call at 2 a.m.? With slow response time of the DISD security, the intruders had much quality time in shopping. With so much time, many items that was taken destroyed are now non-replaceable. Now our students are faced with a challenge, competition, and how will the students move forward without many of the required necessities? impeding our students' learning process, and not to be equipped to face tomorrow's challenges. May I suggest the DISD security system rethink the process of alert school staff and the response time once the alert of the break-in has occurred. I've had many conversations about the security at Skyline. It seems that I am beating a dead horse, but this is a relentless journey, and I firmly believe that my tenacity grip, that the horse will rise again. It doesn't matter that the color of my skin, of the gender, or the zip code that I am.
Ms. Allen, your time has expired.
You only need a caring spirit and a loving heart.
Our next speaker is Trinity Walker. She's a student.
Hello?
Ms. Walker?
This is Trinity's mother, yes.
She had signed up to speak to the board, and so we were calling to give her 3 minutes to speak.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Dallas ISD, this is calling from the Dallas ISD board office. She had called to speak to the board, and this is her 3 minutes.
Oh, yes. Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, I'm sorry. This is her mother. My mother just passed away, and she said she's not available to speak right now.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry for your loss. Our next speaker is Rosa Dunas.
Hello?
Ms. Dunas?
Yes.
Hi, this is your 3 minutes to speak to the board.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, but I got to pass a word. I know the thing is on, so I don't need to talk. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Our next speaker is Pastor Todd Akins.
Yes.
Pastor Akins?
Yes.
It is your time to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, this is Pastor Akins at 3918 Crozer Street, Dallas, Texas, pastor of the Plato Institutional Baptist Church and president of the South Dallas Star Park Faith Coalition. I'm speaking concerning what Ms. Oli Roberts spoke about earlier, the J.J. Rose. My concern is not so much losing an argument, which I have no problem with that, but the questions that I'm receiving in the community is about one of the leaders who was on the attendance boundary committee, who was an advocate for the changing consolidation and creating one boundary to H.S. Thompson, but then later found out she's now applying for a vendor position with the district. I'm all for engagement, but I think if we want to be engaged, we have to make sure that everybody has as much information on the front end, because now it seems like we're getting additional information in the middle and almost the end of a conversation. I continue to want to be engaged in this process. I received the notifications about the the strategy with regards to the principal. My other concern would be with that be affecting the teachers and the support staff. That means custodians, cafeteria workers, and all of those. Are they going to be able to transition to H.S. Thompson, or is that still up in the air? I did attend a meeting several months ago in which one of the teachers of J.J. Rose saying that they did not receive any clarity about their positions, would they be changing, considering those teachers at J.J. Rose that teach the upper grades. I believe the district needs to do a better job of consistent engagement on not only one side of the argument, but both sides of the argument. We believe our responsibility is to stay engaged with our school board trustees, which we have, but also gain the pulse of the community. So I'm here voicing my concerns for the community of the J.J. Rose area, and I wish that the district, the trustee board would not only hear those concerns, but take them to heart and continue this conversation. Those are my concerns. I think that issue with one of the members who was on the attendance balance committee, now in the position to become a vendor, not a relationship with the district, but a direct vendor. I think that needs to be extremely clear in order that we can move forward and not have a celebration of H.S. Thompson's opening and the STEM program, but also the funeral of the closing of J.J. Rose. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I look forward to continued direct and honest engagement.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chastity Masters.
Hello.
Ms. Masters? Hi, this is your 3 minutes to speak to the board.
Okay. For one moment, let me get in the choir to stop. Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, how are you guys? My name is Chastity Masters. I am a citizen of Southeast Dallas, and I wanted to speak more on J.J. Rose. I don't think J.J. Rose should be closed down. It was a really hard transition. One, if you just look back at it, when you guys closed down Pearl C, when the decision was made to close down Pearl C, it's like all of our Southern Dallas schools are being closed down, but they're continuously opening up new ones everywhere else. There's no point in closing it down. What you can do is better those schools, put better teachers in there, put better programs in there, more after-school activities or more tutoring activities instead of trying to close them down. My little brother went to J.J. Rose, and he did exceptionally well with the teachers that he had over there when Dr. King was the principal over there. Or Dr. Knight, not Dr. King, but Dr. Knight. I don't see the point of it. If you're opening back up H.S. Thompson, putting H.S. Thompson back in the spot, I don't see the point of closing down J.J. Rose instead of just putting better curriculums over there. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next speaker is Cynthia McGowan Petrie. Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Hi, this is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Cynthia McGowan Petrie. I'm a product of J.J. Rose Cowboys back in the mid-70s. I have been in early childhood education for over 25 years. I have worked for Head Start of Greater Dallas, Faith Family Academy, and now I'm working for Inspired Vision Elementary in Pleasant Grove. I have a concern about the closure of J.J. Rose. I don't feel that the decision is a good decision because I'm currently in South Dallas. My address is 4722 Meadow Street, apartment 2306. I'm currently, I drive around
Ms. Petrie, you're fading out.
Child development students, and we don't need that here. The food is going to be overcrowded. If you move it out of the kids from just their own other food, they're going to be overcrowded as behavior. It's going to be more behavior. Teachers going to be stressed out. So what I'm saying is, I really feel that Joseph J. Rose should not be early childhood food. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mia Whitaker.
Hello.
Ms. Whitaker? Ms. Whitaker?
Yes.
Hi, this is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just going to keep it short. My name is Mia. I'm a junior at Prairie View A&M University. I'm a product of J.J. Rose. And it's always my dreams to just continue to transform our community. For the last 3 years, I always volunteer at MLK during the summer to read to kids, and 9 times out of 10, those kids come from J.J. Rose. I build personal relationship with those kids because I once was in their shoes, and I feel like displacing hundreds of students is careless to their future and careless to the community. And if this city truly felt that, if the city truly felt the same way I felt about those kids, then this wouldn't even be an option to even shut down the school. I urge the city to reconsider. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Our next speaker is Kaisha Eldridge.
Please leave your message for 972-513.
Our next speaker is Billy Belton.
Please leave your message for
our next speaker. Ms. Benitez called and said she didn't want to speak, so we're going to move to Kamisha Livingston.
Hello.
Ms. Livingston?
Yes.
Hi, this is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have your 3 minutes.
I'm sorry?
This is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Yes, basically I was just thinking that they should revote on the J.J. Rose School and give everybody an opportunity to, try to keep the school there. So that's just basically what I just wanted to say.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our next speaker is Tish McGowan.
Hello.
Ms. McGowan?
Yes.
Hi, this is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, this is Tish McGowan. I'm a founder of We Are One Community Outreach out of South Dallas. South Dallas people have never had the opportunity to have a voice about anything in our community since Miss Kathleen and Al Lipskin. Look how long we've been deprived. How dare Justin Henry have all those meetings agreeing to postpone the decisions of J.J. Rose, and then the board agreed to postpone, but then our clever president puts it back on the agenda during a national emergency.
Our next speaker is Isaac Steen. Mr. Steen?
Uh-huh.
Hi, this is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Hello?
Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Isaac Steen. I stay at 4810 Haywood Parkway. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, y'all must be on delay. I'm looking at it on the computer. But anyway, I wanted to speak about the J.J. Rhodes closure, and I know that they can say that it's going to be turned into an early childhood center, which is still a closure because it's not a community elementary school that it once was. And when I studied the history of Joseph J. Rhodes and him being a civil rights advocate and an educator and all the great things he did for the African-American community and the community at whole, I think it's a shame that to close such a facility with this man's name on it, because our communities are being subject to gentrification as we speak, and we are being moved out of our neighborhoods. If we're not taxed out, we are moved out. And for the board to make such a decision during this great pandemic when they know that the community cannot come out at large and protest or either come out and put in input on what it wants or what it don't want, I think it's a slap in the face to the voters, because we elected people on the board to listen to us, not for us to listen to them. So for the board and Justin Henry to make such a decision based on a great man who had a great input in bringing Bishop College to the city of Dallas and done so many things, for him to make such a just reckless decision to close this facility, I think it's a slap in the face to us. And when you talk about racial equity, and this is what we are talking about, that's why we need racial equity, because we are not getting treated fairly in our city. And I think the board really need to reconsider this and quit making promises that it can't keep, because this was supposed to have been put on hold back in January to 2021. But now we're seeing it's going forward now while we have our hands tied with this pandemic. And I think that also that the board really needs to see how it does business, how it names facilities, and how it goes about distributing money, because the board has showed us and DISD has showed us through the great job it has done to feed these kids that's out of school all over the DISD community, and they're showing equality by feeding everyone. But when it comes down to our community and education, we are always kicked to the curb, and it's so sad that we have people that look like us that's in a great position that makes these decisions that turns us backwards instead of forward. And I thank y'all for listening to me, and may y'all be safe, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lenona Shields.
Hello?
Miss Swanson? Excuse me, Miss Shields.
Hello?
Miss Shields?
This is she.
Hi, this is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Lenona Shields. Good evening, everyone. I reside at 2420 Troy Street, Dallas, Texas, 75215. I am the vice president at JJ Rhodes, so I would like to speak on behalf of JJ Rhodes. I would just like to say South Dallas has been devastated by closures in our area. Rhodes has been in the community over 60 years. The DISD board president and D9 trustee Justin Henry is who we would like to hold accountable, as well as leadership. Justin personally told the community there wouldn't be a vote on H.S. Thompson's boundaries until 2021. All the community gets from the district are non-transparent fairy tales. It started with the misrepresentation of MLK Learning Center and the changes that were made, which was complete disrespect for Dunbar, which would have been combined with Martin Luther King as well as for that year. So the district left out that there were socioeconomic indicators having 50-50 in the school and didn't explain that 50% of the students would be accepted from outside of the South Dallas area. Not to mention, we were told our students would be zip code approved and would have a spot at Booker T. Washington. Well, that wasn't true. Only 2 spots are really reserved for our scholars. The district also wanted to give City Square the reins to take over without having any experience in running a school. Well, I said all that to say during this pandemic, DISD leadership is still going behind our back at a time like this. As far as roads, seems like we're being sold out for a quid pro quo deal. T.R. Hoover already has an organization in the community. The community was promised to be included on the principal selection for H.S. Thompson, according to documents given out to parents. Well, as the vice president of Rhodes, I never got an opportunity to be a part of that selection, and they've already made that selection for us. I was given I feel like that Rhodes should stay the same, and it should not be an early learning center because we have plenty of those in our area. There's no need for those. We have Bethlehem Center, Good Street, YMCA, Margaret Combs, Buckeye, MLK, and Fraser House. Sounds good as you tend to roll over the community once again. Shame on you, Stephanie. Shame on you, Justin. Shame on you, Hinojosa. The clarity is not there. And the guy called earlier about the staff, H.S. Thompson staff will be picked by the principal. And the staff at Rhodes was told they would not be able to go. So there are a lot that they're not telling the parents, and I feel like we should know.
Thank you, Ms. Shields. Ms. Shields, your time has expired.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Our next speaker is Deborah Swanson.
Hello?
Ms. Swanson?
Yes, sir.
Hi, this is your 3 minutes to speak to the board.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good evening, board members, teachers, students, and staff, especially cafeteria and food service workers. My name is Deborah Swanson. I work in transportation for Pat Rainey Service Center. First of all, I wanted to tell DISD you guys are doing an excellent job with this COVID-19. I think the students are being very, very conducive in their learning. However, with transportation, I was wondering if, yes. Okay. Hello?
Ms. Swanson, go ahead. You need to mute your background.
My name is Deborah Swanson. I work in transportation for Pat Rainey Service Center. First of all, I want to tell DISD you guys are doing an excellent.
Our next speaker is Tanjanika Shirley.
Hello.
Ms. Shirley?
Yes.
Hi, this is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Tanjanika Shirley, and my concerns with the with us being out for the coronavirus is the fact that by us being out, we are being given a portion of our regular pay, which is up to approximately 6 hours a day, and our runs pay 8.5 hours a day, so we're not being subsidized for the full amount of work that we normally do. And being that said, our insurance should be prorated because we don't have the funds to actually pay the full benefits of our insurance and the all of the deductions that are actually coming out. Even the teachers' retirement fund, the reductions that they take out of our percentage of pay, I feel should be discounted or dropped down or prorated for the insurance and also for those payments, because we cannot afford to pay the bills that we have to pay with the little income that we're getting in. And those were my issues, was the amount of money that's being taken for the teachers' retirement fund at this particular time. I feel that it should be reduced, and also that our insurance premiums should be either prorated or reduced, especially since we can't even see the doctors like we're supposed to see or be able to see on a normal basis during the coronavirus. You know, they're telling us not to go to the hospitals, not to go to the emergency rooms or anything like that unless it's emergencies or things like that. So I don't feel that we should have to pay full insurance premiums when we don't have income like that to pay full insurance premiums. And we have to feed our families. We have to eat. We have to pay car insurance still. All of our bills are not being discounted, whether you may think they are or not. And we just need more assistance that I feel the school system could provide us with than what they are actually doing. I am appreciative of being paid, but I'm only being paid for 6 hours a day, and I work 8.5 hours every day. So I'm still at a deficit, and I just can't get ahead. under the circumstances, nobody can get ahead. But I can't even survive. I can't survive. I can't file for unemployment because I have a job. I'm being paid, even though I'm not being paid what I would normally make. And the information that we received says that we would be paid our salary. Our pay. And we're not being paid our pay. We're being paid a percentage of our pay, which is a guaranteed 6 hours. But that guaranteed 6 hours is a guarantee just in case
Ms. Shirley, your time has expired.
30 hours. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Alona Malone.
Hello?
Ms. Malone?
Yes.
Hi, this is Dallas ISD. It's your 3 minutes to speak to the board.
Someone else is speaking right now.
You'll have to mute. If you're watching the meeting, you need to mute that.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Pecan Heights, Ilona Malone. And it's the emergency gate, the DISD Longview Station is our neighbors. And it's been a process. And I just want to thank right up front Justin Henry for mediating and David Bates for walking the grounds with me and Sherry West of getting us updated on the gate. So this is just a little reminder for everyone that the emergency gate on La Barra needs to stay closed. It's very quiet at the moment. And we do have a suggestion that we would like that parking lot to be moved, the employee parking lot perhaps, in the future. If that's up for discussion, that would be great. And when we get closer to when school starts back up, this is kind of strange for me here because I can't hear anyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that kind of wraps it up. And then Longview, it's a process. It's a long process. It affords a lot of patience. But again, I have to thank the people that do work with the neighborhood. And that is Justin Henry, David Bates, and Sherry West, especially Justin as a mediator. So I will be at the next meeting or right before school starts just as a reminder. But everything is in the works. So that's all I have to say. I want you all to stay safe, and we'll talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Our next speaker, April Green.
Hello.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Hi, this is Dallas ISD. It's your 3 minutes to speak to the board.
Hello, my name is April Green. I reside at 1905 Nelson Court in DeSoto, Texas. I am a parent of a Dallas ISD senior and a former DISD employee after working for Dallas for over 25 years as a special education teacher and diagnostician. I want to talk to you tonight about FAPE, F-A-P-E, a free appropriate public education, which states that the district is responsible for providing instructional supports and related services to children with disabilities. The letters are F-A-P-E, FAPE, but in Dallas ISD, they earn an F, a fat F, for failing to provide FAPE for students who are poor, Black, or brown. One particular student that Dallas ISD failed was Trent Smith, a first grader attending Dealey Montessori during the 2018-2019 school year. Instead of following the laws and providing FAPE for Trent, the district decided to sue his family. The district failed to provide FAPE. They failed to listen to his parents and address their concerns for their child who was having difficulty learning to read. They failed to develop an IEP based upon the information that they had that could have addressed his needs and provided him with an appropriate education. They failed to consider the evaluation data that was provided by his parents and the information from the teachers to complete an appropriate assessment to address their child's needs. And instead, they spent over $100,000 suing the parents. This district has failed to provide FAPE to many students, many Black, brown, and poor students, by intimidating parents when they ask for help for their children. Instead of helping parents to help their children, the district decides to intimidate them, to delay services, delay evaluations, and fail to provide FAPE, a free and appropriate public education, to which all students with disabilities are entitled. Instead of providing FAPE for Trent, and instead of providing an appropriate instruction for students with disabilities, the district chooses to intimidate parents, pressure them into accepting whatever they want to provide for their children, and they choose to waste our money. The district has spent over $100,000 suing this little boy and his family. This money could have been used to provide him with an appropriate education.
Your time has expired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Charles Williams. Mr. Williams?
Hello. Yes.
Hi. This is your 3 minutes to speak to the board. Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
Oh, somebody's still speaking.
You need to put that on mute.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening to the board, to the DISD board, to all the drivers and monitors, to the staff and to everyone that makes up the Dallas ISD district. My name is Pastor C.R. Williams. I reside at 6543 Gentle River Drive. And I'm speaking on behalf of Pat Rainey Service Center and all the other service centers, Longview, Cleburne, Pat Rainey, Cleburne, and North Dallas. I'm speaking on behalf because of this May, we'll be running out of pay. And our last paycheck is, I believe, the last of 29th, May 29th. So what we're asking the board to do is to consider us concerning this summer, and that we're not able to file for unemployment. So we're asking the board to reconsider either paying us 6 hours a day or else at least provide us with some kind of jobs to where we can help make ends meet to help support our family. Now, during this coronavirus, we understand that y'all doing the best y'all can do as far as the driver is concerned. We ask that you all would reconsider giving us either one, providing us with some kind of jobs that we can do, agree to paying us 6 hours a day. And we thank you all for reconsidering what our feelings and what we're going through during this time, because there's a lot of drivers and monitors out of work, and we need to work and want to work to provide for our household. And we ask that you all would, dig deeper and reconsider the drivers, because without the drivers and the monitors, we would not, district would not be able to survive without of transportation, and we played a big part in the transportation side. So we ask that you all would be more understanding towards our needs in our household. You know, we thank y'all for providing us with the 6 hours a day, even through this situation that we're going through with the coronavirus. And we just ask that y'all would, you know, find it in the budget to at least pay us through the summer. And I know Hannah Holster has probably predicted that we should be going back to school by August the 17th. But consider us that we can be able to provide for our families and our household. There's a very much need to all the drivers from every lot, to all the monitors from every lot. And we will be greatly appreciative of that. Thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak before the board, and may God bless all, and y'all be safe and take care.
Thank you. Our next speaker, LaShanta Blaylock.
Leave a message at the...
Our next speaker, Easter Robinson. Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Hi, this is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Easter Robinson. I live at 2429 Clifton Court, Dallas, Texas. I was employed at Dallas ISD for 43 years. And as an employee, I was a teacher and later became an educational diagnostician. I spoke before the board last month, and I am returning again this month because I am in support of 7-year-old Trent Smith. He's a former DIS student who the district is currently suing in federal court in spite of TEA's ruling in his favor not once but twice. Trent is no longer a DISD student. Therefore, DISD should leave him alone and try to locate the thousands of DIS students who have dropped off the radar. This contract lawyer has lost 2 cases concerning Trent and DISD, but she continues to get paid. And when she loses this 3rd time in federal court, she'll be paid again also. Parents have the right to request testing, deny testing, including services. DISD, are you taking away parents' rights? The question I ask is, as a resident and a taxpayer for 43 years, will I vote for the largest district bond in the state history, over somewhere in between $2 to $3 billion in November? Unless this miscarriage of parents' rights is stopped, my answer will be no when I vote. I will vote no for that bond because you are showing me that you are not good stewards. CISD has spent over $100,000 on this court case, and there is no telling how much more DISD will spend. So I will let my family, friends, and church members know how DISD is not a good steward of our tax dollars, and will urge everybody I know to vote no to that bond issue in November, because this is a waste of money, suing this child and the parents.
Your time has expired.
Just because.
The next speaker is Nancy Rodriguez.
Hello.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Hi, this is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. First off, let me thank you for all you're doing during these difficult times. Today, I want to talk to you about social work and how important they are and will be moving forward. At the briefing, I heard Chief Elizalde mention a proposal to increase the district's mental health budget. I cannot stress enough how important this is in light of the current crisis we are facing. As an active and practicing social worker, I understand well the financial and social implications that come from the COVID shutdown. Our district families and our city are losing jobs, income, housing, transportation, food, our way of life as we know it. It is imperative that our families have help applying for public benefits during this time of great need. Experienced and skilled social workers can help with the application process and obstacles our families encounter. They can help with resources. They can provide counseling to the affected students, but only if you let them. As a former district social worker, many times my hands were tied. I remember receiving a district email stating school staff could no longer complete Social Security paperwork. Many of our parents don't speak English, and many are semi-literate. Many students only receive services in school, and the teacher's observation of student functioning may be what allows the child to qualify for SSI and the benefits that come with it, like Medicaid. I would encourage the district to start establishing those relationships with those public agencies that provide assistance, like Social Security, Dallas Housing Authority, Medicaid, the local Intellectual Developmental Disability Authority, and food pantries. Finally, in the same way we develop teachers, consider developing your social workers. Offer trainings and workshops. Look to partner with community providers. See if you can provide supervision for social workers to get their clinical license and continue to grow. I want to end by thanking Chief Elizalde for putting forward this initiative. But let's be thoughtful about the implementation, because it's going to make all the difference to our families. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Joyce Jackson.
Hello?
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
This is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Give me a minute to mute.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Joyce Jackson, and I'm here to speak in support of Trent Smith, a 7-year-old former DISD student who is being sued despite 2 TEA rulings in his favor. His mom, who is a DISD educational diagnostician, not DLE, initiated a special ed referral for suspected learning disability, speech impairment, dyslexia, and occupational therapy. 4 months later, after an observation on the playground, the school psychologist felt that Trent could be autistic. Autism has never been suspected by the teacher or the parent, so his mom did not agree to the additional autism testing. If a district determines that
that an additional examination or test is required for the evaluation of a child's special education, the district shall provide the information above to the parent regarding the additional examination. And this comes from your DISD board policy, EHBAB local. It does not state that a parent must give consent or the evaluation stops, which is exactly what happened to Trent. Even though evaluators thought that they had enough data for special ed eligibility and services, Trent was denied FAPE because his mom didn't agree to autism testing. So basically, if a parent disagrees, DISD will sue them. The first ruling in Trent's favor required DISD to complete the evaluation and hold an ARD meeting. That's when the retaliation against his mom began. The night before the ARD meeting, Trent's mom was sent a partial evaluation report with the shocking addition of a possible emotional disturbance. I worked in DISD for 20 years as a general ed and special ed teacher, diagnostician supervisor, and director of that department, and served as an executive director of special ed in a neighboring district. Most of my career was spent in DISD, where I learned the importance of building a trusting partnership with parents. But what happened? While you're preparing to present a multi-billion-dollar bond package, money is being wasted suing a 7-year-old boy. This appears to be an attempt to put DISD in case law under the guise of doing what's best for Trent. I implore you, board members, to put a stop to this unjust and unnecessary attack on this family and do the right thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Alania Crowder.
Your call has been forwarded.
Our next speaker, Justin Bolton.
Justin Bolton.
Hello?
Mr. Bolton?
Yes.
Hi, it's your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Good evening, school board. I am Justin T. Bolton of Dallas, Texas, 75219, and speaking on behalf of Trent Smith. I am a native Dallas Texan that came through the ranks of DISD, starting with Adele Turner, William Hawley Atwell, and finishing at David W. Carter High School. I credit a great amount of my success to a deep-rooted foundation that this public system provided me. It is absolutely disheartening and disgusting that I now get the displeasure of experiencing DISD's appalling conduct towards my nephew, Trent Smith, and his hardworking educator parents, Angela and Tremaine Smith. It disgusts me that you've allowed ill-fit individuals sitting in positions of leadership to disregard TEA on 2 distinct occasions that instructed the district to finish testing that would provide special services to Trent. It disgusts me that you've allowed the district to spend over $110,000 in taxpayer money in an attempt to ultimately tell my sister and brother-in-law they don't have the final decision in Trent's well-being. It disgusts me that even after these 2 rulings from TEA and this information being brought to your attention at the last board meeting, the district is still allowed to spend even more taxpayer money towards a pointless witch hunt. While I speak on behalf of Trent and his parents, I also speak on behalf of his sister and brother, my parents, my grandparents, my uncles and aunts, and cousins that are all built on a strong lineage of faith, education, and leadership. These ill-fit individuals sitting in positions of leadership clearly didn't do their homework when they chose to bring a fight to my family's doorstep. I would highly suggest you all do your homework in making this situation right and ridding the district of these ill-fit individuals. Until this is fully rectified, I will not support any bond money towards the district, and I will advise others to follow suit. Thank you for your time, and have a great evening.
Our next speaker, Lakeisha Wallace.
Hello?
Ms. Wallace?
Yes?
It's your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Hello. Good evening, everyone, especially to Trustee Henry, District 9 Board President. My name is Lakeisha Wallace. I reside at 3513 Wendelkin Street, Dallas, Texas. As I prepare to address the board tonight, I happen to run across some of my old notes. And my notes from a decade ago, it was actually 2010 to be exact. A speech in which I addressed the board asking for additional staffing at Skyline High School. And yet, here I stand again, 10 to 11 years later, still in need. Currently, Skyline is in need of 7 teachers, 4 core, 3 PE teachers, 1 counselor, and last but most importantly, at least 5 monitors. Let's be realistic. If the school is not adequately staffed, you can't meet a true college readiness requirement. Safety and security is vital as well as priority. The 5 monitors are critical to providing campus support. As I stated, for decades, I've addressed the board, exercising my parental rights, fighting for the basic fundamentals necessary to ensure stable learning for all students, guaranteeing a gateway to becoming a productive citizen. As I stated, we need help at Skyline. What I leave with you tonight is this question. Will we have to wait another 10 years to receive what we need at the school for all of our students to be successful? I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you in advance for allowing me to speak, but it is most critical that we provide security and safety for our children at all times, and if you expect them to exceed and do well, then you must provide them with the necessary tools to do so. And right now, we are failing our students, not just at Skyline, but all over. This is not an ask. This is not a want. These are our needs. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you. Our next speaker, George Rangel.
Hello?
Mr. Rangel?
This is George. May I help you?
Hi, this is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Yes. Ready? My name is George Rangel, 334 Center Street, Dallas, Texas, 752-208. I'm the Executive Vice President for Alliance AFT. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Oh, good evening, President Henry, trustees, and superintendent. I would like to address our transportation employees, H-1B teachers, and librarians. Our transportation employees are really struggling, as you can hear, to make ends meet at this time, having to make decisions on buying food, paying for bills, rent, purchasing necessary medications. They're all adding up to the COVID stress. Alliance AFT is urging the district to consider finding work for transportation employees and cafeteria employees during the summer, or consider compensating them until August. Next, We ask the district to be proactive in making sure our H-1B teachers do not get caught up in the president's halt to immigration process. Many H-1B teachers will have expired visas when they return to work in August. This is crucial to our bilingual workforce for the next school year. Alliance AFT also implores you to reconsider accessing librarians. These librarians and their assistants are currently helping students with being successful in online learning. While we understand this is a campus decision, it does not make sense to access these necessary employees now when we know our students need them the most. These are valuable in the education process. Just to recap, consider finding work for transportation and cafeteria employees during the summer or continue compensating them through August. Have a conversation with the TEA Commissioner, Morath. Let's be proactive in maintaining our H-1B teachers in DISD. We cannot afford to lose them. Third, we reconsider and encourage principals not to access librarians, especially during this most crucial period when our students need them the most. I thank you for your time and your service, and please be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker, Lisa Smith.
Hello?
Ms. Smith? Ms. Smith? Hi, this is your opportunity to speak to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon to President Henry and the board members and Superintendent Hannah Hall. My name is Lisa Smith. I live at 406 North and Miller Road. I want to take a minute of your time and thank you all for supporting us during this COVID-19. I also want to share with you the impact that this has on me and other workers, as we are having a difficult time making ends meet and paying our bills, rent, keeping food on the table. We are asking the district if we are able to return after May, or can the district provide summer work for us bus drivers and monitors around the district and any capacities, or we are asking the district if we can continue to receive our guaranteed comprehensive until August. We also like our job. We make ends meet. We make ends meet, and then we do field trips and working overtime. We are asking you all to consider us in compensation of if we are not able to return to work because of the COVID-19. Thank you for your time and appreciate your work, and we thank you all and be safe.
Thank you. This concludes our speakers.
Thank you, Dina, for helping us facilitate that, given that we have to do this virtually. I also want to thank all the speakers this evening. We're now going to move on to Section 5, approval of minutes. Trustees, we have the following minutes submitted for approval. We have one board meeting that occurred on March 26, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion was made by Trustee Marshall and seconded by Trustee Flores. Excuse me. No corrections. Trustees, will you please cast your votes? We'll start with voting with District 1 and then go all the way through District 9 as we have at our other meetings.
I vote yes. Marshall votes yes.
Mitch K votes yes.
Garcia votes yes.
Trustee Johnson votes yes.
Trustee Foreman, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Could you repeat your vote, please?
Yes.
Mackey votes yes. Solis votes yes.
Trustee Henry votes yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
Okay. Trustees, you have just adopted the motion approving the minutes as submitted. Trustees, we're now on the statutory items. Our first item is 6.01 to approve the resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Dallas Independent School District waiving local policy mandates not associated with state or federal mandates. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion made by Trustee Flores and seconded by Trustee Marshall. Trustees, is there discussion? We're going to do this District 1 and then going through District 9. Hold on one second. It's best if you raise your hand, so I'll definitely see it. If not, you can raise your hand physically, but I might miss it. But if you raise your hand in the Zoom system, I'll see it. I don't see any hands.
President Henry, you were cutting out there with your internet connection. What item are you on?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Is it better?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my internet connection or I need to speak louder. So we're now on the statutory items. We just approved the minutes. We're on statutory items, and our first item is 6.01 to approve the resolution of the Board of Trustees. Trustee Marshall, can you hear me? Not? Is it better? Okay. Trustees of Dallas Independent School District waiving local policy mandates not associated with state or federal mandates. I asked for a motion. I already received it from you and seconded by Flores, and I was opening up for discussion. Again, it's easiest for me if you raise your hand in the system. If not, you can try to flag me down. I'm going to try to go in order from District 1 to District 9. Trustee Marshall, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure you hadn't moved on from that agenda item before comments. So I appreciate the administration bringing forward this resolution. We're clearly in a unique time that requires, special and in some cases drastic action to address the crisis that we're in. And I think it's very reasonable that in a state like this that the board would give the superintendent additional powers to make decisions that might not always be consistent with the way we would operate and outside of an emergency time period. So at a high level, I certainly support this resolution and understand that many of these things ranging from reporting requirements to performance appraisals to teacher compensation to professional development to workloads and schedules and taxes and all of the other items that are mentioned in here make a good deal of sense to me. The one that I primarily have questions about, and as the administration is aware at this point, relates to the calculation of grades and how grades will be used for GPAs as well as for rank. So those are the nature of my questions. So I guess, I don't know if I'm directing those at Dr. Durant or Chief Elizalde or Chief Lear, but between one of the three of those folks, I got a few questions. Dr. Lear and I have talked quite a bit about this. And since this resolution was brought forward a few weeks ago to the board, there's actually been some changes to it. The original resolution asked the board to waive the rank and the GPA guidelines to allow the administration to make emergency changes to the system. And that version of the resolution was presented to the board on April 9th. But in fact, the day prior, on April 8th, the administration actually passed changes to the regulation governing rank and GPA. And of course, it's well within the rights of the administration to change regulation since the administration governs regulation and the board governs policy. But since this change was actually passed without the requirement of the passage of this resolution, I felt it was very strange and unnecessary to include the language in the resolution at all. So I asked the administration to remove that language, and they agreed to remove the rank language. Is that correct, Dr. Lear?
That's correct.
Okay. So to be clear, with or without the consent of the board, the administration has the ability to change the way rank is calculated as a result of COVID-19?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So, and do you intend to exercise that ability with or without the passage of this resolution?
Yes.
Okay. So some very attentive parents have pointed out, and in fact, there's been some emails exchanged literally in the last couple of hours, but they pointed out that the regulation exhibit that was passed by the administration on April 8th actually has some conflicts with the other language that's included in the same regulation. So there's a couple of examples that have been exchanged over email, but one of them, just for the purposes of conversation here today, is the regulation to calculate rank says that English 1, as an example, must count towards rank. But then the emergency exhibit says that no classes taken this semester will count towards rank. And obviously we have a number of students currently enrolled in English 1 that would not be expected to retake that class. So can you tell me how you're planning to reconcile that situation? Will there be future changes to the regulation to reconcile the situation, and how will the math work?
Okay, so this is Yvonne Durant. So one of the things that we did is on the EIA regulation, on the last page of the regulation, we put in an emergency provision. So we stated that due to COVID-19, the following provisions would be implemented as emergency measures. And in order to carry out these provisions, we developed an exhibit. So there's an exhibit that exists for those provisions. So basically what we would be doing is following the EIC exhibit for the rank stipulation.
So does that mean the rest of the language in the regulation outside of the exhibit is ignored for this semester?
That is correct.
Okay, so help me understand in that English 1 example how the math would work. What for that student that took English 1 this semester, how is their rank going to be calculated?
Okay. Oswaldo has our math ready to go.
Okay. Did someone say math? Basically, a course that's taken this semester would not be calculated in the average. So there's 30 semesters, right? There's 4, 4, 4, and 3, so 15 courses. So that's 30 semesters that are used to calculate rank. So if a student is in English 1 this semester, the score would not be calculated, and the denominator would be 29. So that one class, and of course students are taking more than just English 1. They're taking a math and science and social studies. So we would just divide by the denominator. If it's one class that's being taken right now, it would be 29, 28, 27, 26.
So does that also reduce the number of required English classes that
No, those are still required. They're required for graduation. So in other words, the students will get credit for graduation. They are still required, but they will not calculate it in their rank.
Right, but would the English 1 class that was taken, I know it would count towards graduation, but would it count in the number of required English classes, or are you reducing the number of English classes? Because if you don't reduce the number of English classes, then you de facto brought up a grade that was lower than what that kid could have gotten in English 1 and then included that in their rank. So you may be harming a kid that was doing well in English 1.
When they're taking English 1, there's 2 semesters. The first semester counts as part of those 30 semesters. The second semester, that class would not be calculated in the class rank.
I get that you're removing it in the denominator, but if you're still taking the highest ranked course within that set of courses and not counting it as one and not reducing the number of total courses that would be required within English, then you're essentially bringing up a lower grade that could have been replaced by English 1.
Right. No, by lowering the denominator to 29, we're saying that English 1 course, while it's required for graduation, it will not be required in rank. It will not be calculated.
Okay. I think the administration released a rank calculator. The first I saw about it was slightly before this meeting, so I haven't looked at it yet. But I've gotten a lot of questions about this. I mean, dozens, if not hundreds, of questions about this, and I know Dr. Grant's been copied on some of those. But we need to make sure that we've got our ducks in a row. And obviously it's within the administration's power to change regulation, after this resolution passes. But I still have some unanswered questions on how the math would work on this that I need to get my head around. So would love to continue this dialogue, offline. So second question, there's been a lot of feedback in my district about the original language in the resolution to stop grades in this semester from counting towards rank or GPA. And some parents and kids feel like it isn't fair to kids who are working hard to excel and earn great grades that we're doing so both before and after COVID. And some other parents feel that without the motivation of GPA and rank, kids will just quit working hard during virtual learning. So when it comes to motivating students, my understanding is that grades would still be calculated. Is that right?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, and they'll still show up on transcripts.
That is correct. They still will have a grade for transcript.
Okay, so colleges looking at transcripts would still be able to see if kids continue to focus on their work during virtual learning, and would also be able to recognize kids who actually had their grades climb over time, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the crux of my question, I know I might run out of time here, but with the president's permission, maybe we could do a second round on this. But it's clear to me that you've made this decision in order to provide some equity and recognition that there are thousands of kids that simply don't have the ability to continue their virtual learning, whether that's due to lack of internet access or responsibilities to work, to provide for their family, or maybe responsibilities to babysit their younger siblings who are also out of school while their parents are working, or because they don't have a location to study, or maybe they're looking for their next meal or experiencing traumatic stress. And I understand that rationale. I think that most reasonable folks are in agreement that these students shouldn't be penalized for a situation that's beyond their control. But that said, there are two suggestions that I've been getting from a bunch of parents and even from some students. And I've brought both of these suggestions to you guys for consideration over the last couple of weeks, and you've decided not to amend the administration's path forward based on those suggestions. So I wanted to give you a chance to publicly explain the rationale for why neither of those suggestions was accepted. So the first suggestion was that we should allow kids to choose to either have their grade count or to accept pass-fail. And the second suggestion is that we should take the grades from the first six week period and use that grade as the grade for the rest of the semester. So can you walk us through why you've decided that neither of those suggestions should be the path forward?
Yes, sir.
Trustee Marshall and Chief Durant, there's about 40 seconds left in Trustee Marshall's time, and then we'll move to the next trustee. There will be a second round if Trustee Marshall needs it.
Okay, do you want me to answer it or not?
He wants me to quit talking, but you can talk.
So in 30 seconds, I'm going to stop.
Okay, all right, very, very quickly. Let me start with the second option, because I think that's the easiest one. And with that second option, you talked about having students use the grade from the first semester on the second semester. That's probably one of the most de-incentivizing ways that we can treat this whole process, in that wherever the student is, the student needs to keep trying, because as they keep trying, a real grade will be placed on their transcript. And if a real grade gets placed on the transcript, then that is the reward that student has for wanting to keep going forward.
Thank you, Trustee Durant. You have an opportunity to finish the answer. I have Trustee Mitchke, District 3 next. I have Trustee Foreman's hand as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Can you hear me all right?
I can.
Thank you. Well, my question does relate to some of the things that Trustee Marshall touched on. In particular, I've received a number of requests from parents that the district consider going to a pass-fail system. And I know we've got some modified version of pass-fail that has been under consideration in the sense of the spring semester grades not being counted towards the class ranking or towards the overall average average GPA. But I think with respect to those families that are concerned that the online learning and the challenges that many of our families have in not having access, in having perhaps only one device in the home, food insecurity, just a whole host of issues that we're all becoming all too familiar with, that a pass-fail system for the spring semester would be the most equitable way to go. And I would like it if it was possible for you to help us respond to that concern with a clear message of whether or not we are going to consider this as a pass-fail semester, and perhaps a follow-up with in a hub notice, so that everyone can be on the same page as to what is really intended. And I will also say this, that I do intend to support the resolution. I think all of these items are things that the administration needs the flexibility to handle, but I would like to take this opportunity to see some clarity on this pass-fail suggestion that keeps coming up. So if I could ask either Chief Durant or Chief Elizalde or Chief Lear, whoever jurisdiction this is in, to comment on that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I'll start it and then I'll pass it on to Chief Elizalde. First of all, one of the reasons why the original reasons why we stayed away from pass-fail was that when we researched this, we found that the National Collegiate Association, Athletic Association, was only giving students with a pass, they were giving them the lowest possible numerical grade. So if in Dallas, our lowest passing numerical grade is a 70, that's all that athlete would get. So we would be penalizing athletes if we did this. Now they've come out lately telling us that they're waiving the test, but they were totally silent on giving any more explanation about their grades. So we're taking that to mean that they're still keeping with that grade. Now, in order for us to really understand why we feel confident that students earning grades, we have to understand the kind of direction that Chief Elizalde gave the principals in moving forward with this. And I'll pass it on to Chief Elizalde.
Good evening, trustees. So the challenge comes when you have to average, as we do in our district, the fact that for the year, it is composed of 2 semesters for almost every single grade level or every single course, with a few exceptions. Those few exceptions are usually at the high school, like for speech or government or economics. Those are 1 semester courses, and those courses, whatever the semester grade is the grade you get for the course. But in a grade level or other 2 semester courses, you must have an average of 2 semesters in order to determine whether the student gets credit for the full year. So if we did a pass-fail for second semester, as the example that I gave at the briefing, then I would not have a numeric grade with which to average with the first semester. So if a student had not done well in the first semester, let's say even a 65, and we give them a 70 or a pass, but we don't articulate what that pass is, then I don't have a numeric average with which to give them credit. Then I would only be allowed to give them credit for the semester they passed, and they wouldn't have an opportunity to regain or to improve on that first semester. And so from an operational standpoint, you do need a numeric grade in order to benefit students to ensure that they can get credit for the full year.
Do you only need the numerical grade for those situations where the student had a grade below 70 in the first semester?
In theory, yes, absolutely. The challenge is if you start trying to decide which students need a grade and which students don't, you completely create a system now where you wouldn't have consistency in how we would calculate grades. So that's why we're saying you get a numeric grade, but let's not incorporate that grade into your GPA or into your rank in class. Let's not make it high stakes. Let's make it be beneficial to students.
Okay, I think that this is one of those situations where some really good communications could, I think, help alleviate some of the stress that is going on right now, where families do feel like it is high stakes on those grades. And I don't know if this is already on our website in the frequently asked questions. But as I indicated, as I started my questions here, I think this would be a great item to cover in a clear, concise, and comprehensive way with a hub story, so that it can be circulated widely, and we would have a consistent message for everyone to understand. A lot of the discussion has been at the high school level, both for class ranking and for overall averages, and as well as for scholarship issues and so forth. But this issue is obviously important for all of our grades, and some of those things that we were talking about, class ranking, have nothing to do with elementary school students. So I would think that we could get this information out and circulated widely, and perhaps broken down by secondary, or actually broken down by the different types of schools, so that if we do have families, say at the elementary school level, where their children did pass all of their courses in the first semester, that it is functionally pass-fail for the second semester. And
correct.
That message would go a long way to alleviate the stress that's going on right now in the vast majority of our elementary school families that are suffering from deficiencies in being able to deal with the online learning situation. So I strongly recommend that we do that. And again, I do intend to support this resolution. I have full confidence in the administration to exercise this authority wisely. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President.
We will take care of that communication. Well said, and we will make sure that we're clear, and we'll provide examples so that we can reduce the stress. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mitchke. Trustee Foreman, followed by Trustee Mackey.
First question is that you got me muted.
I took you off.
I know you keep doing that. My question is, I've got a couple of questions. The first one is, and I don't know if this is Chief Elizalde's question or not, but I've had parents who are asking questions regarding the students that do not have hotspots and have not been able to log in. And how are we going to deal with that situation and assess them? Can't hear you.
There I am.
There you are.
Okay, my apologies. Yes, ma'am. We are working with those students with actual paper and pencil assignments, as opposed to the online. And so teachers are creating the criteria of allowing students the time to turn those in, even if not physically. We're utilizing the phones. They've been able, many students who don't have connectivity have been able to utilize the phone to take a picture of the work, and then it is evaluated by the teacher. In some other situations, they did have access and they could scan a document and they've sent it into the teachers, but couldn't necessarily participate like in a Google Classroom setting or a Zoom classroom setting. So there has been a tiered approach to being able to work with those students one-on-one. And I'll be happy to offline take any information as you have always done, sent us names of individuals that are struggling so that we can ensure that every single one of our students that is in that situation, we can do both offline and online work.
I just had a family of 3 that just got a hotspot today in South Dallas. And so I am concerned that they get what they need and don't be left behind.
Yeah, and we would give them additional time and we would make additional adjustments. Yes, ma'am, by all means.
So you'll be working with technology as they give out the hotspots to be able to identify those particular people or those students?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. The second thing is about our special needs students. Because I've got a situation at one of my elementary schools with some concerns about the special needs students and how we're going to be handling them. How are we going to do that?
So Ms. Casas and Michelle Brown and Ms. Brown have both started having weekly sessions with the parents, and they started those weekly sessions precisely to guide the parents through where they needed to go with the students. Secondly, they've already begun the orders to send all of the needed manipulatives for the students. They've sent them home to them, and they will be mailed out as well as instructions for them. Teachers have touched base with the students, and these students are also being contacted on a daily, weekly basis by their teachers. So we've not left our special needs students behind.
So Dr. Durant, the situation that I came across this week is that some of the parents do not have access to the internet, so they're not able to go through that training that you're speaking of. So how are we going to handle that? Will the special needs students also be given devices?
Yes, Ms. Casas distributed 170 devices just this week. So this is our goal, is that we're working with them as quickly as we can. As the teachers call the students and as the parents explain their situation, we hurry up, we remedy it, and then we bring them up to speed.
So I do have a list of parents that I'd like to share with you.
Please.
From one of my schools, because this has come up, and actually the PTA wanted to purchase the devices because the students are getting further behind. So I'd like to get that information to you.
Please do.
Then the last thing, the last question is about date specific. And I think this is Pam. One of the things that I wanted to make sure of is that at the end of this school year, is that this resolution becomes null and void. Is that what we're doing?
That's accurate. At the end of this resolution, it states the academic school year.
At the end of the school year?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Trustee Foreman, Trustee Mackey, and Flores, and Trustee Johnson.
Thank you, President Henry. First of all, I just want to say to the administration, just a phenomenal job. I know that there's not one easy, quick answer for grading. I know how much you guys have gone back and forth thinking through that. And as board members, it's not on us to come up with this grading policy. You guys are the experts, and I just want to thank you for your hard work considering every single angle. I know we've sent you a ton of different things that we've been sent, et cetera, and I think you all have done a phenomenal job working through those. I just have 2 quick questions. I just want to give the space. I am curious to hear the answer from Trustee Marshall's earlier points. I don't know if Trustee Marshall, if you want to mention those two real quick, but I would like to hear those two answers, and I have another question.
Oh, thank you. That's like ceding over some of your time. I appreciate that. My question was around the two suggestions that many parents and students have made and that we discussed in our call earlier this week, Drs. Elizalde, Lear, and Durant, which those two suggestions, just to reiterate, were one is to give each kid the choice to either have their grade count or accept a pass-fail. And the second suggestion was to take the grades from the first 6-week period and use that grade as the grade for the entire semester.
So let me begin, and then I'll allow my colleagues, of course, to jump in. First, to the issue of selecting pass-fail versus or incorporating it into the GPA or the grade. I recognize that every parent, of course, wants what's best for their child. That's why they're the parent. That's exactly what they should be doing. I would ask everyone to recognize that everyone isn't in the same situation. And just by the nature of saying we're giving a choice to students creates some of the largest inequities for the students who have the least access. And I, for one, just ethically would not be able to say that I could support choice because I'm not really giving a choice. What I'm saying is that those who have access are going to have the greatest ability to have a higher opportunity for a grade that would be incorporated into a GPA or a rank. And given the fact that that the students that I serve cover such a diverse group of students, and I also recognize that we have parents who are able to push their kids and to motivate them, but I also have a number of students who their parents were laid off, and instead of being able to stay at home and work on their own schoolwork, they actually have to go work 2 jobs at McDonald's because that's the only way they're going to have money to provide access for food to take the place of the food that they're already getting from our school district.
So Stephanie, if I can, I appreciate that answer. And to be honest, I'm inclined to agree with you on this one. Let me try to paraphrase my understanding of what you're saying, because I think the notion of choice can be a little bit of a misnomer, and I think that's the point you're making. In one respect, it makes sense on the sort of surface to say, oh, well, we should just let everybody choose, and everybody has the choice of either a grade or pass-fail. But if you take a subset of the population, I think this is your point, if you take a subset of the population and say, okay, well, that group couldn't even continue their learning because they were babysitting their siblings or working a job or didn't have internet access, that group doesn't actually have a choice because there's no way they could have gotten an A because they literally couldn't continue their learning. So it's a false choice for them. They have to take the pass because they weren't presented with the other side of the choice. Whereas the other group of students who may have had all the opportunity to continue their learning, and some of them worked really hard and some of them didn't. And so, the ones that didn't may free ride on having that choice, and the ones that did would presumably choose the A. But the fact that they had a choice and the other group didn't have a choice is where the inequity comes. Is that right?
That would be correct, sir. It's only a choice if I have equal access. Otherwise, it's not really a choice for me, is it?
Yeah, so that one makes sense to me. The one I struggle with a little more is the second scenario, which you haven't addressed yet. But if you can walk me through, Dr. Durant started to talk about this earlier when we ran out of time.
Yes, sir. And I believe I did give an analogy, and some people are going to think it's not a good analogy. I, of course, think it is a good analogy. Nonetheless, if we were running a marathon, and I know we've got at least one trustee who runs marathons, I believe Trustee Mitchke. Nonetheless, if we were running a marathon and the marathon had to be stopped at any given point, no one, nowhere would say whoever was in the lead when we stopped the marathon wins the marathon. No one would say that because a component of the marathon is the fact that you have to complete the marathon. And so there are many individuals who run a pace purposely so that they end up in the lead later on in the marathon. So when we talk about counting 6 weeks, that's not the unit of analysis. The unit of analysis is the semester. And we don't have equitable control over what's happening over the next 6 weeks for our kids. And so saying that we're going to take 6 weeks, because that one we can quantify to the legitimacy, and the other 2 we didn't have controls over, and counting that more towards the other, I think is frankly very similar to the first question you asked, in that it's not equitable. And so I did have 2 other opportunities if the semester had continued, and we don't know what my final grade for the semester would have been. And so by removing that is why I don't think that from an equity standpoint, again, taking 6 weeks and creating a semester grade from that 6 weeks is fair. I don't see the equity in that particular recommendation.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification on all those. Just from my own experience as a principal, I fully actually concur with that. I think not all 6 weeks are created equal, especially if you talk about, for example, an AP class or a lot of other classes that strive to finish new material by the end of the fourth 6 weeks, or at the beginning of the fifth 6 weeks. That's all new material, and the rest can be a review of the course as teachers start to work through that. And some students may struggle with new material at first, but then they put in the work and the effort on the back end in the 5th and 6th week. And I think, that truly is a meaningful way. So I am fully supportive of this recommendation. I do concur with Trustee Mitchke's point about let's communicate that. And I'd be happy to help out in any way that I can. But I appreciate those explanations, and I think that carries a lot of weight just from my own background as being a principal. The other question I do have is, you mentioned that part of the reason to get a grade for the second semester is to bring up the overall year average if a student had failed the first semester. What happens in the scenario that a student had a 70 for the first semester, but then for whatever reasons they struggle, they're not able to access them, we can't reach them, and they end up not accessing it or end up with a 60 for the second semester? What would happen in that case?
So in that scenario, and I'm sorry, I had taken myself off of video. First and foremost, we have also asked teachers to ensure that if they're not making contact, Trustee Mackey, that we be notified so that I or someone else can go and see how we can make sure that that contact is happening. We're also working to ensure that if we have to give an incomplete, because let's say they started off and then something happened and we haven't figured it out, then we would prefer to default to an incomplete when necessary so that we don't penalize the students. And then lastly, we would then go and ensure that if we needed to make a grade correction by allowing the student, I think Trustee Foreman was alluding to this earlier as well, some of our students are going to need additional time to make sure all of the assignments are able to be turned in, whether they didn't have connectivity at the beginning and then get it at the end. This is, again, going to be different than, this is the timeline, you have to turn it in, and after this, we don't accept it. And I, again, want to emphasize, I recognize that there are many parents who are able to motivate and make sure their kids are keeping those deadlines, and I'm so thankful for those parents in doing that. But we also have a whole other group of students that aren't able to do that. So I hope that addresses your question.
Yeah, maybe just more shortly, if that scenario happens, we are going to do everything possible to make sure that kid does not get penalized and then fail the class for things that might have been outside the control that we cannot verify.
Absolutely. We would ensure that a 60 would mean that we worked and went and the student said to me, I'm not going to do the work. That would have to be the scenario in order for us to not ensure that we work with that student to meet the minimum 70.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your work on this. I know how much has gone into it. I think you guys have done a phenomenal job, and I look forward to supporting this resolution.
Thank you, Trustee Mackey. Trustee Flores.
Thank you, President Henry. So I mean, my understanding is somebody can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of school districts are doing this, and this is kind of a TASB template we started from.
Well, most of the surrounding school districts are doing a strictly pass-fail, but they've now started to encounter some challenges with what are they going to do with the student who failed the first semester. and then they give them a pass for the second semester. Now, what are they doing? Is the student going to have to retake that semester when in fact they could have gotten a grade high enough in the second semester that would have awarded them credit for the whole course? And I say that from experience, as my stepson attends Richardson ISD and we're having some of the same type of issues because the pass fail is not meeting the necessary items, yet being able to have a numeric grade but not creating it high stakes into a GPA or rank gives you essentially a hybrid of the benefits of a pass fail, but yet benefits the students in being able to give us an average so they can still pass a grade or a course for the semester.
Okay, and then I just real quick also second question. So for magnet admission purposes, because this does affect kind of the kids that are in third grade applying to a fourth grade magnet or the sixth grade. So I assume this takes that into account.
Yes, sir. And keep in mind that all of those applications had already been placed in effect prior to this. So none of this adversely affects any of those. Those applications were in prior to this unfortunate crisis.
Okay, well, that's a good point. I hadn't thought it all the way through. I just want to thank you guys for listening. I know I've sent you information and sent requests. There have been a lot of suggestions from the community, and I just want to thank you for listening and kind of taking all the different points of view into account. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Flores. Trustee Johnson.
Thank you, Trustee Henry. Dr. Elizalde, you guys are doing a wonderful job. I know this is creative and difficult with everything that's going on, so hats off to your staff. Everybody is working so diligently to make things happen. Some of the questions that I've been receiving in District 5 was surrounding the grading categories. Some of the students who completed projects prior to spring break, the change in category, did it lower their grades? How was the changing of the categories to classwork to homework beneficial to the students?
Yes, so anything that was done prior to the spring break maintained the category weight that the student was expecting. After COVID-19, I have asked, more than asked, I have expected and required that all of the categories have the same weight, because the truth be told, at this point, how do I differentiate between tests and assignments? Everything is being done on your honor, if you will, and therefore I equalized everything post-COVID. But prior to COVID, all of the categories, so if I worked really hard on that project and that project was going to count, let's say 20%, it still counted 20%. But after that, all categories were now equalized.
Okay. There's some questions that I know I can talk offline. I know we got some also issues with our technology, trying to get that together. I think there's a code that's being requested from some of the kids, and they're not able to access the code so they can complete their work. Is that something that we can fix, or how we need to straighten that out?
If I can just get the names of the families who are struggling, I absolutely can guarantee we will do one-on-ones and make sure that we provide whatever type of support and the time frame necessary to ensure that they can be successful.
Cool. Thank you so much, Dr. Elizalde.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. We're going to go to the second round. Trustee Marshall.
Yeah, so Dr. Elizalde, I want to pick up the conversation where you and Trustee Mackey left it. In response to the question about the 6-week option, you had kind of talked about the marathon and how the unit of measurement was the whole marathon or was the whole semester. And that argument makes some sense to me, but my honest reaction to that is that we could change the unit of measurement because of the crisis, right? I mean, we could adapt that. The argument that I think I struggle with a little more was the argument that Trustee Mackey was starting to make, which is that the first 6 weeks of the semester is not the same as the second 6 weeks, is not the same as the third 6 weeks, and since they're not apples to apples, it doesn't make sense to take one 6-week period and extrapolate it for the grade for the whole semester. So I'm assuming you're in agreement with that assessment. And if that's the case, then I'm hoping you can kind of help walk us on the board who are not, generally not educators. A few of us are, but not me. And kind of help me understand why those 3 6-week periods are not apples to apples and what's different from one to the next.
So I actually don't think that Trustee Mackey's argument is really different from the marathon, because I think it takes a different skill set to finish the race or in the middle of the race. Not that I'm an expert marathoner, because I'm not, but it fits my argument right now. So I'm going to go ahead and make those connections. But to Trustee Mackey's point, I will say this as a professional educator, all joking aside, education is cumulative. And so therefore there could be a 6 weeks where I may be struggling with a particular concept. So I'm going to make it simple. Let's say that we're studying slope of a line in an Algebra 1 class. And slope of a line could be the foundation, and in fact is, for many of our algorithmic and algebraic concepts as we move through the course. But I may not have gotten it during the first 6 weeks. But by the time the second and the third 6 weeks of that semester come on board, and as the application and the relevancy increases, suddenly the light bulb goes on. And, we've all seen that, oh, suddenly I get it. So now I do better because it's a concept that is being spiraled into the curriculum throughout the 6 weeks. So I think Trustee Mackey is emphasizing that, particularly with timing during the 4th 6 weeks, as a teacher, I knew I got to teach everything that's tough during that first 4th 6 weeks, because I want to have enough time to spiral in additional activities to support those concepts. So students could suddenly get the light bulb on, but I've taken away that option of them demonstrating their ability to get the concept. And while it may not be evident in the 4th 6 weeks, it could be evident in the 5th or the 6th 6 weeks. And again, I've taken that away as an option for me as a student, because I didn't have the same environment in which I was doing that learning as I did that 4th 6 weeks.
Okay. Thanks for that background. So another question I've gotten a lot, and I apologize for peppering you with all these questions, but, as you guys know, we are not, around this board table, we're not educators. So we don't know the level of detail and nuance that you guys do, but we are the ones that get most of the questions from the community, and we need to be in a position to be able to answer them. So another question I get frequently is that many parents are pointing out that many universities like SMU and North Texas have gone towards an optional pass-fail system. So can you give us your thoughts on why that situation isn't a good analogy to DISD?
Well, I think sometimes the issue is that, first and foremost, we're not a college or university. And so to take that out of context and say they're doing this at a college and university, so let's do it at a high school, I think doesn't incorporate the fact that there are so many other things that occur at a high school that don't happen at a college or university. And the college and university, you're really working towards that degree. And I know, your GPA is important, but it's vastly different from the high stakes GPA rank with regard to the top 10% of admissions to Texas universities. So I don't want to remove ourselves from the fact that by incorporating this second semester in the rank or GPA, that anywhere would be similar to allowing college students to select that, because we've already discussed the inequities that are created by utilizing that. So again, if we're saying they do it at a college or university, the context is vastly different.
I would add that high school is compulsory, university is voluntary.
So last question for me. I think the underpinning of the feedback that I'm getting from a lot of parents, and you gave voice to this earlier, Stephanie, is, parents want what's best for their own kid, and, that's human nature, and we can't fault that. Of course, the job of the administration and the job of the board is to make decisions that are in the best interest of as many kids as possible. Sorry, one of the new luxuries of taking Zoom calls from home is that when you have 4 young children, they scream in the background in the middle of while you're off mute. But the reality of our decision-making process is that we have to do what's best for the greatest number. But as parents are thinking about this process, and as students are sending us emails showing concern for their rank and their GPA, the underpinning of that thought process is about college admission, right? It's either about getting into Texas as the top 10% that you just mentioned, or it's about applying to some other school and showing that they made progress along their tenure in high school and improved their GPA and that they performed well relative to their peers. So can you help me understand what conversations we've had either with other school districts or with universities, college admissions departments that help us paint a broader picture of how COVID is impacting the college application process for this year's junior class across the whole country, and how this year's application process is not likely to look like the previous year's application process, and consequently this whole notion of rank and GPA, not that it's not important, but it will play a different role this year than it has in the past.
Right.
I see Yvonne came online, so I'm going to let her take this one first.
Okay, and then I'll pass it on to Chief Elizalde. We've been doing some research on this, and one of the things we found is that there were about 6 of the districts as part of the Urban Curriculum Council that chose to go with the fall 2019 grades for their rank, and these were school districts that were very close to UT Austin, and we're looking towards that. And one of the things that we found, that part of the reason why we wanted to make sure that we all were relatively uniform was that the UT Austin Director of Admissions in some of the interviews that he's been holding is saying that the Office of Admissions would recognize the academic work of the high school students, whether it's assessed with a letter grade or pass-fail, but will not be penalized in this transition. So one of the things we wanted to do was to make sure that we tried to give the students as much runway as we could using their fall semester. The other thing that was noted was that they're looking to do some more relaxing as they read the transcripts. So we wanted to make sure that as they read our students' transcripts, that they would have actual numerical scores to look at.
Anything you'd add, Dr. Elizalde?
I would just add that I have not personally spoken to any of the university admissions office, but 2 folks on my staff have talked to the UT system, and they were informed that every university in Texas, at least in the Texas system with the Texas Common App, is all recognizing that this second semester is essentially almost like they almost don't look at it. If it harms students, if it helps students, they'll be looking at those numbers. And so, even things like the ACT and the SAT are now being considered something that they may have to be waiving just because those assessments are not currently going to be administered. So it's also fluid with the universities, but I was pleasantly surprised that they indicated they would be looking at those numbers. And in fact, they thought that our approach of using numbers was going to be helpful if it in fact helps kids. So they're using that whole, if it's going to hurt them, we're not going to look at it. If it's going to help them, we're going to look at it.
And just to reiterate, since we are having numbers, they will be on the transcripts and college admissions officers can look at them.
Numbers will appear on the transcript. They just will not be incorporated into the GPA or into the ranking class.
Great. Well, I don't have any other questions. I just want to thank you guys for working on this. I do think that there's a little bit of extra work to push this across the finish line from a math perspective and make sure that parents understand how this will work and that we work through some of these unique situations to ensure that we're not hurting any kids. But I appreciate the spirit in which you guys are operating, and I just want to thank you for your work.
I've got Trustee Henry, I've got one also additional response. Since two of my boys went to the Ivy Leagues, one of the things that we discovered afterwards when they got accepted, in fact, we were told they don't even look at the GPA. They look at if your high school offers 5 AP classes and you take all 5, that's a good thing. If your high school offers 15 AP classes and you only take 5, that's not a good thing. They want to see students who will challenge themselves and take rigorous exams. So that may not be true for all state universities, but for the Tier 1 universities, they look at what kind of rigor do you engage so they can see what kind of success you're going to have. And they also look at what all activities are you involved in, because they want to see students that are well-rounded. So all of this is part of the formula, but there's not one linear process that any admissions team uses in making final decisions.
Thank you, Trustee Mackey. I see your hand. Go ahead.
Just briefly, Trustee Johnson's question got me raise another one that I've been asked. Can you, Dr. Elizalde, can you talk about what the guidance was and is for teachers and staff for grading categories prior to spring break, but still in this 6 weeks that will be impacted by COVID, and what that looks like?
Yes, except I can't remember what the percentages are of those categories off the top of my head, but there are categories and percentages that we've used, throughout the entire year. And then when we started, whether they were assignments or tests or projects, all of those would be equally weighted. So there wasn't a percentage. In other words, it's just an accumulation of grades. And then from there, if there were assignments that were not completed yet, we wanted to make sure that initially we would find out why something hasn't been turned in before we end up saying that it's a negative against a student. Because to both Trustee Foreman and Trustee Maxey's, there are some areas, of course, and some in your area as well, where students do not have access or connectivity. And so even if we've provided them a device. And so the number of grades would simply be divided by the number of grades that we've taken.
I'm meaning the percentage, because before in our board policies and the regulations, it shows like 40% for classwork, 30% for tests. So can you talk about those grade categories had to change to this new system?
Correct.
Is that correct?
So essentially there's no percentage per category anymore. Everything is equal.
And if I remember correctly, because I've had some questions about this, that's because you have to have one system for the entire 6 weeks, correct? You can't have some category for before and some category for after.
Correct. And primarily because the authenticity, if you will, when we would take a test and tests were weighted separately, well, you're taking that in a classroom being proctored by a teacher, right? Now, if I'm giving a test, you're taking it at home. So the accessibility to notes and other resources, which in some instances is a positive, like we shouldn't always think of that as negative either. But nonetheless, because the circumstances and the environment are different, we now equalize them.
But for all of the 5th 6 weeks, regardless of it happened before spring break or after, there's only the 2 categories for 2nd through 12th grade, classwork and homework.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mackey. A lot of my colleagues have already mentioned some of the concerns I had, like Trustee Marshall stated and Trustee Mitchell stated. I've received a lot of emails on both ends of this. And I do appreciate Chief Elizalde and Chief Durant, you taking an equitable approach to this, knowing that whenever we close schools following spring break, a lot of our students don't have the same type of access, even if it's just simple internet access. When we closed schools, we also lost public libraries, we lost recreation centers, we lost a lot of places where our students could thrive, including the school, which might have been their only safe space. So I really appreciate the equitable approach, knowing that there are students that are continue to rigorously work, and there's some that want to rigorously work and just don't have the opportunity. So I appreciate the work. I don't have any other comments and questions that haven't already been addressed. I don't see any additional comments. So at this point, trustees, could you please cast your vote, starting with Trustee Flores going through to District 9?
Flores votes yes.
Marshall votes yes.
Mitch K votes yes.
Garcia votes yes.
Trustee Maxey votes yes.
Foreman, yes.
Mackey, yes.
Solis, yes.
Trustee Henry, yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. The next two items now require a vote, but you'll receive agreements that will be emailed to you. So in accordance with starting with 602, the board members' ethics agreement, in accordance with our board operating procedures, annually the board president is required to present a copy of the board members' ethics policy to each board member. Each board member shall be responsible for signing an agreement to abide by the ethics policy. A copy of the agreement will be emailed to each of you, which you will be able to sign electronically. Do I have a motion? No, there's not going to be a vote.
You need a motion?
No, I don't need a motion. Trustee Flores. But on this agenda item 6.03, in accordance with BBD legal board members training and orientation, the State Board of Education framework for governance leadership shall be distributed annually by the board president to all current board members and superintendent. A copy of BBD exhibit framework for school board development and a copy of the signature page acknowledging receipt of the exhibit will be emailed to each of you, which you'll be able to sign electronically. So we're moving on to section 7. Consider agenda items. Consider and take possible action to approve. Consider agenda items 7.01 through 7.41 as amended. Trustees, the following agenda items have been pulled for a separate vote. That'll be agenda item 7.07, 7.34, 7.36, 7.37, 7.40, and 7.41. In addition to that, agenda item 7.16 has been pulled from the agenda by the administration. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda as amended?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Trustee Flores and seconded by Trustee Marshall to adopt the consent agenda as amended. Trustees, will you please cast your votes, starting with Trustee Flores?
Flores votes yes.
Marshall votes yes.
Mitch K votes yes.
Garcia votes yes.
Trustee Johnson votes yes.
Foreman, yes.
Mackey, yes.
Solis, yes.
Henry, yes.
The motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. You have adopted the motion approving the consent agenda item as amended. Trustees, we're on the last agenda item 8.10. Consider and take possible action to approve the waiver to board policy CW local new facilities and approval of the name of the downtown Montessori at Ida B. Wells Academy in accordance with board policy CW local new facilities. Consent item 7.41 pulled because new agenda item. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Trustee Flores made the motion. Trustee Marshall second. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the waiver to board policy CW local new facilities and approve of the name of the downtown Montessori at Ida B. Wells Academy in accordance with the board policy CW local new facilities. Trustees, is there discussion? Trustee Marshall and Foreman. Marshall's your hand up from previously.
Well, I did have my hand up previously, but I'd also talk, so that worked out well for me. Can you tell me what the process was for figuring out the name of this school? In particular, I'm wondering what involvement Downtown Dallas Inc. had given their involvement in the process.
Yeah, Trustee Marshall, as you know, Downtown Dallas Inc. works for a long time with people currently on this board and before this board to try to get the downtown school to be a fruition, the place where we haven't had a school historically. So they're supportive. I've talked to both the folks that lead the organization and people that they've worked with in that downtown community. What's unique about this school, as you know, is it's a downtown school, but it's going to serve kids from all over our district, which is why a lot of you have been involved with it over the years. So they're been heavily involved in the naming. They're fully supportive of the naming. I have to go back to our message to read it, but they're honored to be in support of that name. I hope that answers your question.
Yep, great, thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall, Trustee Foreman.
So,
Mr. Cass, see you too.
Okay, I'm familiar with Ida B. Wells, former educator, but this is a lot different for me than the conversation about Eddie Bernice Johnson and Wilmer. In regards to the downtown school, which is in District 9, we've continuously closed schools in District 9, and they were named after people from this area. And I just wonder why we did not consider that. And particularly, I'm thinking about Pearl C. Anderson, which we just sold the property. Miss Anderson was known, she was noted for donating land to downtown, but that name is gone, along with J.W. Ray, Maynard Jackson, Fannie C. Harris, Colonial, Daniel Chappie James. And then we had people from this immediate area like Otto Friday, Papa Bear Lewis, Hollis Brashear, former trustee, Judge Thomas Jones, former trustee. Athletes like Larry Johnson, Michael Williams. We had attorneys like Louis Bedford. We had educators like Mamie McKnight and Dr. Donnie Breedlove. Did any of those names come up when there was a discussion, and did the community come forward with Ida B. Wells?
Is that a question for me, Trustee Foreman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all those names, not all of them, but many of those names came to mind, including some names that you didn't mention as well. As you know, actually, we've had a conversation a while ago where I solicited some names from you. I've solicited names from some former educators in DSD, solicited names from a lot of different spaces. And then folks from downtown Dallas East have had suggestions as well. So, yeah, all those names are considered. I wish I could name, frankly, all of our schools after those great folks. But at the end of the day, you have to choose one name. And this was the name that was chosen. So I definitely appreciate your perspective and your point.
Excuse me, who chose the name?
It was collaborative between the trustee, being the trustee of District 9 and Downtown Dallas Inc.
So was any of the other community people involved? Or just Downtown Dallas Inc.? Yeah,
myself as a trustee and folks affiliated with Downtown Dallas Inc., given that that's the folks that, as you know, worked heavily to get the school going for years.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Foreman. Trustee Marshall, your hand's still up. Is that an act? Trustee Garcia?
You know, I'm, as a proud graduate of one of the now continuously highly ranked public schools in the country, named after a very potent figure in my life, the first Mexican-American woman elected to the House of Reps, and just seeing the names of people like Eddie Bernice Johnson and Miss Wells, it's an extraordinary thing for a student. I'm excited that names like these, the names of women of color, are part of the conversation, but also to Trustee Foreman's point that the local recognition for our community is a really big deal, and would highly encourage that remains part and forefront of conversations, but very excited for the future of this school named after such a figure. But haven't said much for tonight, but this is one that I feel very strongly about. Just wanted to thank the administration for the work that's been going on here, and for you, President Henry. That's all.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes, again, I just want to thank Dr. Elizalde. I know she takes a lot of heat at times concerning tough issues, and so do the trustees. But I just want to appreciate you for your leadership concerning this matter. I do understand that you're up against the wall with the coronavirus and a lot of things that's happening in our nation, and we have to support and work together and build a synergy. But again, I thank you, and I think everybody knows that in District 5 we have several community meetings, and we will continue to have those meetings, and also have more in Wilmer concerning this new school that I believe is going to be exciting for that community as well.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. Trustee Solis.
Yeah, Trustee Henry, just echoing, thanks for your leadership on this. I mean, this is sort of like the capstone now on a very long process that you picked up on coming in on office and really spearheading. And I appreciate the fact that you work with Downtown Dallas Inc. As you know, downtown Dallas isn't just one community. It's a very diverse community. There's different neighborhoods within that community. One neighborhood has its own thoughts and culture versus the other, right? Similar to Wilmer and Hutchins. Like, we know that those are not one city, those are two cities. And so in downtown Dallas, with all those different neighborhoods, for you to work with Downtown Dallas Inc. and bring them together, I appreciate your leadership on that. So thank you, sir, and happy with that selection as well of the name.
Thank you, Trustee Felice.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, trustees, could you? Oh, sorry, Trustee Mishka. Apologize.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I was just going to invite you to make some comments about Ms. Wells for those who don't know what her contributions have been to education.
And I'll kind of ramble as I go through this, but first and foremost, she was an educator, which was important in these discussions. When we talk about an institution of learning, a Montessori method, and getting kids to be passionate and love learning, she was an educator. She's very dynamic. She's a female, which was important. She's African American, which was important to me. She was a leader in the suffrage movement, and a leader in the sense that not only was she a supporter of the suffrage movement, she made sure that African Americans were included in the suffrage movement. People often think about the women's suffrage movement and Susan B. Anthony, but in many times, African American women were excluded in that regard, and she made sure to insert herself in that conversation very, very emphatically. She was one of the founders of the NAACP, which is often overlooked, but she's one of the founders of the NAACP, which was founded in 1907. She's just a dynamic leader that was way before her time, in the sense that when you think about the late 1800s, the early 1900s, women alone were having problems voicing their opinion, their perspective, much less an African American woman. And she was a trailblazer, didn't care about all that, the rules, the regulations, whatever she did was right at a time when it was very unpopular. And the last piece, which I didn't share with you, this city has a specific history, including some lynchings that occurred downtown. Trustee Solis has talked about in the past. She was a fervent advocate about anti-lynching, and a lot of her writing was against anti-lynching. So that was also part of the conversation of having a school in downtown named after someone who was one of the leaders in the anti-lynching movement in downtown. So it's a quick summary, but she's a phenomenal woman. Happy to have the opportunity to name a school after her. I feel the same way about Congresswoman Johnson and her leadership in our area. Again, the foremost point I wish we could name, we have a lot of great leaders in the city that impacted our community. So hopefully we keep that in mind with schools when we go forward.
Thank you.
That being said, trustees, could you please cast your votes?
Flores votes yes.
Marshall, yes.
Mitch K, yes.
Garcia, absolutely yes.
Trustee Johnson, emphatically yes.
Trustee Foreman?
Wait,
Trustee Foreman?
I want to redo my vote now.
Trustee Foreman, are you going to vote? Okay. Not present to vote.
Mackey, yes.
Trustee Miguel, yes.
Henry, yes.
The motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, trustees. That was our last agenda item. It is 10:16 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Y'all be safe. Have a good night.